It's been a while since we made a video like this. We're going to take a look at this topic. I'm going to read all the comments on the wowhead section, do a little bit of a rant on all that. But on the same vein, I'm going to be giving my ideas on ways they can actually fix this problem. There was a post that's super relevant. We've been talking about this literally for years now. I pretty much went super hard on it during Legion. We pretty much gave up trying to find a solution for it because it seemed like Blizzard was never going to do it. I'll give all my thoughts on that as we go. Here's the initial post, though. It's a bit misleading. I feel like it's kind of out of context, the whole thing. But anyway, since there's a problem with people bailing on Mythic Plus keys and going into groups and generally not wanting to cooperate, why isn't it a thing to give incentive to complete a pug group without anyone leaving? Not enough to be game breaking, but enough to be desirable. Some bit of a new currency that could be purchased, cosmetics, items, mounts, and pets. And that's exactly what I have been talking about for years. Some kind of actual currency for finishing keys. So let me just lay out what my idea has been for a long time, because everybody talks about punishing leavers and trying to stop that, but you're not really going to be able to do that. That's almost impossible because currently there's no way to differentiate between somebody who leaves the key maliciously and somebody who's just leaving the key because everybody wants to stop, right? And especially there's no way to differentiate between pug players doing that and groups that are 5 players together in Discord saying all right, we're done, just stop. And they can change that, but they don't seem to want to until today. So anyway, my way of solving it is adding a currency to finishing any key, okay? And the way it would work is I'd have to elaborate on it more. I don't want this video to be super fucking long, but it's going to be long anyway. TLDR, 3 tiers of purchase with the currency. Low amount of currency to re-roll your key, medium amount of currency to protect your key, meaning you could put it in and it won't go down, and then high amount of currency, and this is ones that always gets people to disagree with me on, high amount of currency, maybe very high amount of currency to upgrade your key. Because what I'm thinking here is the content is hard enough, right? There's no real need for the key level to stop you from doing the content. I never felt like this was a good idea. I never enjoyed this concept. Oh, I have a 22. I don't want a 22. I don't want to do a 22 on my main. I don't you know what I mean? I don't want to push that 22 to a 25 just to get it. So instead, it would encourage me to go into other people's groups, finish them, succeed at that. Again, I could use that currency to do something with my key. I think this would be the perfect opportunity. You'd have really good players, super high push players coming into keys to farm that currency. And then they would be incentivized to stay for the whole dungeon. Because what else would they be in there for? They're only there for the currency at the end. It would solve so many problems. And the fact that you could protect your key would be huge because then you'd have a lot of the mid-tier players, they can just be investing their currency into protecting their key because there would be no real investment for somebody who's doing a 15 to upgrade it to a 16. That's not going to help them. They would rather just not lose the 15. So it seems like the perfect solution to me. Obviously, you'd have to balance it around the key level. You don't want a 2 dropping the same currency as a 22. So anyway, there's a lot to discuss there, but I wanted to make a whole video on that at some point. I'm just going to not do that and now talk about it here. Okay. So anyway, this is Blizzard's response. There's a bunch of other posts here. I think most people are kind of missing the point in this thread, but anyway, here's what Blizzard said. Funny you should mention this. We had several internal discussions about this very topic, and while there's nothing to announce yet and realistically not for a while, there is very much a concern on the radar. It feels a little disingenuous to say stay tuned because nothing is going to be immediately forthcoming. But if and when something comes of these discussions, this is the forewarning to not be surprised. With the smile. That's a fucking... Yeah, I don't know who this guy is. I used to know everybody who worked at Blizzard. I just stopped caring, honestly. But that's a hell of a statement. This is your forewarning to not be surprised with a smile. Even a little passive aggressive. You guys are leaving keys. Guess what? That's not going to stay forever. Which makes me think they have a definite plan. They're definitely talking about a solution to this. And the fact that they're commenting on it, in the past, I would say completely guarantees you that they're going to do something about this. The way it used to work in the past was they would not Like, if they were going to make a post, it was something that everybody on the communications team would have to collaborate on. And then one guy is just the face of it, and he's the one who posts it. But everybody basically types it out and makes sure they agree on it. So that would basically put them in a position where they would never announce anything that they didn't absolutely want to be announced. And that's partially because of like the blue tracker obsession that people have now, where anytime a blue post gets made, they're reading it and assuming a lot from it. So I wanted to read this post because I saw when I woke up, this had like 100 more comments than it did last night. Let's refresh. It's got another 3 since the start of the video. We're going to read these and rant about this. I've done this in the past a lot. It's always been fun. And ideally, we'll have some good discussion come out of this. So make sure you guys leave your thoughts, and especially on some of these comments, okay? So yeah, this is a lot of this first few comments are bullshit because originally the article's title was BlizzCon on levers because they're just like making BlizzCon articles. So they just copy pasted it, I guess. That's bullshit. Looks like Mythic Plus leaving is back on the menu for season 3, boys. Yeah, obviously it's not happening in season 3. But anyway, the reason they don't have a solution for it is because every single solution brought forth regarding this by players are horrible. There's only one solution. You don't like levers, do it with friends or do it with guildies. So this is the main reason I wanted to make this video. This is like the bulk of what I want to talk about right now. So first of all, we'll start with the second part. The only solution, you don't like levers, do it with friends or do it with guildies. No, that is the complete opposite of the only solution. And it's not the only solution, first of all. Obviously, Blizzard is talking about finding another solution. So anyway, yes, this is the complete wrong way to approach it. We talked about this on live stream last week, actually, and I was thinking about clipping that all up into a video, but here's a better platform. This is the complete wrong approach. And the short version of it, I talked at length with a bunch of people on that stream. The funny part is some guy ended up basically like proving my point by being like insanely selfish and being stupid and really combative. But anyway, the problem here is we have somebody who's very selfish, taking the group into their own hands, preparing like, like saying like I'm more important than the other 4 players in the group. And that is frankly like unacceptable behavior, like abhorrent behavior, like non-acceptable behavior in a pug group, a social fabric, right, where all 5 people are supposed to be getting together to be on the same page about something. And the only person who loses anything from that behavior is the key holder. That's it. The other 4 people, including that guy who leaves, they lose time. And I get why people like use time as like a bargaining chip, but you're playing an MMORPG. Like, no offense, like, yeah, you don't really get to use that as a bargaining chip, okay? If you don't have the time to dedicate to an extra 15 minutes in the dungeon, then you shouldn't be playing the game. Like, just log off. I can't hear that argument. That's just silly. Especially because you're talking about like, I mean, most of the timers are under 40 minutes, right? Is there any 40-minute? I don't even think so. So you're probably leaving like 20 minutes into a 40-minute timer. Like, what are you going to even get? You can't do another full dungeon with that extra time anyway, right? So anyway, but yeah, it's just purely selfish. Like nobody, like very, very rarely does all 5 players say like, hey, yeah, let's all stop. Okay. But if there was going to be one situation where that would happen, it would be the key holder say like, I want to stop. And then everybody would agree to stop. And, that would be at least a fair disband, even though I don't necessarily want to see that either, especially if I'm just there to get, like with that Neltharian's Lair the other day, a great example of that. I got the trinket from the run. How nuts is that? But anyway, so that's like usually how it goes. And then you have the 5 people disagreeing on it ending. You know what I mean? And one person leaves, says, I don't care about the other 4, I'm leaving, which is really selfish for a lot of reasons. But the main reason is because the group leader had a lot of people he could have invited to you, right? He could have invited to the group and he chose you. So I'm laying all this out because the next statement is crucial to understand that part before you continue on with the argument, okay? So that's like how it works, right? The only person who loses anything is the key holder. He had the choice of bringing any 4 players. He trusted that you were going to be a valuable asset, and you betrayed him by putting your own wants above his, basically, or really everybody's. And so people say the solution to that is only run with people you know you can trust. First of all, that doesn't solve the problem because friends and guildies might still behave this way. Now the game has changed in a way that it's hard to find people who actually care about each other in this game. But let's not worry about that part. The main thing to think about here is, what does this do? If everybody who dislikes this situation leaves the actual pug community, then the only people left who are pugging are those players, the players who are willing to leave and just basically betray the social trust of everybody else. That's right. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't like it, then stop pugging. Well, then the only people who pug are the people who like it. And then the pug community gets worse and worse and worse to the point where it's pretty much at now where, like, I have over a 50% disband rate. You know what I mean? Like, that's absurd. The keys are not that hard. So when you have that, there's another factor that you might not think about. When everybody just fucking quits on anything, then nobody can progress because one small mistake ends the entire key. Meaning that not only do you not have a chance of saving that mistake, which has happened a lot. I've had many keys where there's been a lot of mistakes and we still upgrade keys. Okay. But on top of that, you have no chance to learn. Okay. So people might think you're a fucking pro, and I get why you think that because you play a video game. So obviously you're very skilled just by default, right? But no, there's a lot of people out there who think like, well, there's absolutely no value to us practicing this key, so I'm going to leave. There absolutely is. Like, you're an idiot if you think that, honestly. Even this late in the season, I'm still learning new things. I'm still seeing things like when I was fighting that hunter mob in that Neltharion Slayer key. I did not know that hunter mob respawned the pet. I've never seen that before, right? So there's always something to still be learned, always some progression to be made. But the way the score is set up, it's not really encouraging people to learn. It's basically encouraging people to hop from key to key until they get carried to success effectively, until all the stars align and your lack of learning didn't matter. You still succeeded. Whereas I like to do it the opposite. Like, if I could finish every single key I do, I would learn a lot faster. I would feel a lot more capable as the tank, knowing every situation that might kill me and all the stressful areas of the key. So that's hindering the overall population. So it's like a snowball, right? Like, it starts with bad mentality, turning into bad players, turning into bad success. Like, it's just, they're causing this all. So anybody who's saying like you should just leave the scene, no, that's the complete opposite of what you should be doing. What you should be doing is making those players leave the scene. You don't like leavers? Stop letting them get away with it. And the best example I can give, I brought it up on that live stream. If you say you have 5 people who all live in a cul-de-sac, right? Very similar to the area I live in. If you have all 5 groups of human beings who own houses all in a very short period of time, a very small plot of land, right? And one of them is constantly fucking blaring their music, being very disruptive to the other 4 people, but they're not breaking any laws, right? Like, just in this case, like, leavers aren't breaking any laws by Blizzard, so Blizzard isn't punishing them. In the house case, the police aren't going to come and do anything about this. What should you do? Should all 4 of those people move? Leave their fucking homestead and go somewhere else? No, because you don't guarantee that the problem gets fixed. The way you guarantee the problem gets fixed is all 4 of those people go to the 5th person and say, stop fucking doing this. And that is at the heart of the problem here. The people who leave and are ultra selfish, like, general leaving, whatever, but like the people who like leave over like one disband, or like we're at the last boss of a dungeon and somebody's like, yeah, I'm leaving now. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of shit is not okay. And it hurts the whole community, everybody involved. If the 4 people who got spurned by that guy made him realize he did something unacceptable and bashed him and, spammed him with messages saying like, yo, fuck you, dude, you can't do this shit, get the fuck back in here, kind of thing, it would wear him down. If every time he, like, say he does that 5 or 6 times a week, right? If every time he did that, the other 4 people in the group disagreed with him and fought him on it, he would just be like, fuck it, I'm done fighting with these people. You know what I mean? But because there's absolutely no social pressure to stay, because people become so lackadaisical, like so accepting of it. Like, it's just the culture of the game now. Just say, fuck these other 4 people. Who gives a shit? They don't matter to me. You know what I mean? That is so bad for everybody. And the third factor that you might not be considering there as well, if everybody just leaves who doesn't like it, quote unquote, then you have unsuspecting people getting ambushed by it. So you have somebody who might be new to the system, They're doing keys for the first time this season, and they come in, and the only people that they're queuing with are these aggressive, like negative, bad players who are leaving and causing their progression to stymie. Those people are just going to quit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no future here. You can't just leave the system, dude. Like, it's not an option. Eventually, you're going to have to pug again. And then you leaving the system left this fucking mess of a thing here. It's a terrible piece of advice. It's one of those situations where you're like, if you yourself are trying to solve it, then yeah, maybe the best way to do it is to just stop pugging. That's whatever. That's up to you. But to say there's only one solution to this problem, that is so reckless and not the solution. That's not the solution. There is one solution to the problem. Blizzard fucking does something about it, which maybe they will do now. But this is not the solution. This is a social problem at its core. So it should be handled socially. And for all the people who say they hate it, so few of them have any actual like they don't do anything about it. They just complaining on my live stream and on my videos. That's it. That's the most it gets done. I've never seen anybody besides me stand up against this. I really haven't. I've never seen anybody say, "Hey, that wasn't cool. Don't fucking do that." You know, if you push back against these players, they will eventually get worn down. Now, there'll be a sliver of them who are like truly sociopathic players, but I don't think most, like, I really don't. I think like probably like a good 50% of the people who are disruptive to groups are simply doing it because they think that it's the right choice and they're selfish. Like, and they're just not, they don't care about you. You know what I mean? And the game has set that up for them. So if we set it up in the opposite direction, the culture changes around it, then it solves itself. But anyway, this is another incorrect statement. The reasons they don't have a solution for this is because every single solution brought forth regarding by players is horrible. And well, it's kind of true. But the problem with the statement is that it's very short-sighted. So he's not wrong in his like very topographical level conversation here. Like if you're just looking at the absolute flatness of the argument, then yes, there is not a lot of good solutions brought up by players. Unfortunately, that's because of the fucking situation I just described to you. Because you have new players walking into this and getting shot in the face with it, like blasted completely out of surprise. They have no idea. They're walking into a world where everybody treats each other like crap. And then they're just like, the first solution is they should be punished. So you have this like kind of like fucking treadmill of new players arguing about bad solutions. But I'm one of very few people who have been doing this since Legion, like weekly, and those solutions don't work. But I have heard great solutions too by people who are serious about discussing it and have thought about it for years, like myself. So, yes, the problem here is that there's a lot of new players thinking about it at a superficial level, and they're not really deep into the conversation. They haven't thought about the pitfalls. And that's just the most like, that's just what everybody circle jerks to. Like, let's punish leavers. It's like, you haven't thought that through. So anyway, there are solutions. Thanks for watching. No, we got more. But that's like pretty much the main thing I wanted to get off my chest on this. And there are good solutions that don't require Blizzard to do anything. It does look like they will do something though. So I don't expect this to change because just as much as there's, selfishness, there's also a lot of, cowardice and just an inability to stand up for something in a video game. I guess it's not surprising, but anyway. A lot of comments like this where, they're basically bashing the fact that Blizzard says we don't really have any plans to do anything right now, but Blizzard, is known for doing this kind of thing. And you have to understand that they are, just because they're saying it on official Blue Post means something will happen. That's really important. And I don't know why they're giving that kind of advance notice, but it makes me think like they have a serious, like it's going to be punishment. I actually think it might, like if my first inclination as to what this would be was true, it would be that they're actually going to design a solo queue. That's the ultimate solution. People say there's no easy solution. That's the easiest solution. It would just require the most resources. They would just make a solo queue. So then there'd be pugging Mythic Plus or pushing Mythic Plus. And there'd be no reason to push Mythic Plus outside the solo queue with anybody but a full group that you know already. Like that would just kill that, and then every pug player, quote unquote, would just be doing the solo queue, which is what people have pretty much been asking for this whole time without realizing it. I just never thought they would do it. It's crazy it's taken them this long to even acknowledge it. I agree, it is, but it's not crazy because they have acknowledged it and said, we don't care. They've said that in BFA, and, I don't necessarily blame them. The other side of this argument is that they say, like, well, we didn't make this for pugging. You guys should be doing it with progression groups, just like Mythic Rating. Nobody complains about levers in Mythic Rating, right? That's what Blizzard would say. But the reason is, in Mythic Rating, you can replace the players. It's completely different. It's not even remotely the same. This is the only content in the game, too, where your failure makes you go backwards. The Keystone system is awful. It really is. But it works well enough for what it is, and it could be iterated upon to be made better without having to scrap it. So I would just like to see them think about doing that. If they're not actually going to make a solo queue, then they should consider making the Keystone system better for your average player. Because right now, I think it's only great at the absolute highest level. It keeps that progression. You're constantly battling the key. You know what I mean? But at the low level, you're like, oh, great, I have a key I don't even want. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not working. But anyway, yeah, it's not surprising that they would say that, but the way I look at it is they built the perfect pug content. Like I this is the perfect pug content. Mythic Plus is perfect for just 5 people grabbing it, grabbing each other and just going in there for 30 minutes and leaving. You don't need a fucking progression group for that. If you had 4 hours dedicated to it with a progression group, you probably wouldn't have as much fun as if you just did 4 hours of pugging. And honestly, like the wild, wild west of pugging is a big factor of why I enjoy it. So anyway, if only there would be an already existing solution called Dungeon Deserter, which is annoying enough for most of the majority of people to stick with the worst players already. Okay, so here's another topic that I hear get brought up all the time, but people don't fully understand. This is not a solution currently. It cannot be added. In the pre-made group finder, there is it's like built, and there's a set of presumed rules that if you join this way and you leave this way, you will be facing repercussions. But right now, you can literally start a group and just walk into the dungeon, like the standard party format, right? So you could like literally invite somebody who didn't even know what they were doing. You know what I mean? Like there's that level to it. Like that's how games are designed. There's this like pre-existing rule set that you understand when you queue for something, that if you break it, you will fail. But that's not how it works in Mythic Plus right now. With pugging, you simply just make a group. Like you can literally have 4 people prank somebody, invite him, and summon him into the dungeon, put the key in. You know what I mean? Like that's a possibility. That can't happen in the pre-made queue system because everybody has to confirm at every step. So anyway, they would have to change that. They would have to make a Mythic Plus solo queue for them to be able to use Dungeon Deserter. Or the idea where people constantly bring up they should have a vote to disband, which they could absolutely do if they did that system. That can't work right now. Those rules need to be established. There needs to be confirmation of you accepting those rules before every key. And then, of course, the question is, how does the actual key get handled at that point? So all of this would require a totally revamped system. Anyway, yeah, so a lot of people seem to agree with that, but this guy says, do you know how easy it is to dodge Deserter? It's like, that's just not what we're talking about one way or the other, I don't think. But this another great this is like a fucking gold mine. This guy says you can't use Dungeon Deserter. People are going to AFK in your runs and hold you hostage until you leave and you get Deserter instead. And this gets brought up a lot, and I don't know why. I really don't know why people think this is a bad thing. Like, let's put it this way. I don't think people, and this is another example of it right here. I don't think the people talking about this have properly thought it through or ever actually tried to find a solution to it. Because to me, it's obvious. If all of these people were clearly like known as levers with bad reputations, this wouldn't exist. Like if the 20 of the 50 applicants out there could be clearly defined as people who are willing to leave keys, I wouldn't invite them. They wouldn't be in groups. So, like that's for a lot of different reasons. That mostly because Radar.io doesn't record disbands, right? if they did, you would see people with like 50% disband rate and you see people with like 90% disband rate. You know what I mean? Like it would be obvious. So if the guy's going to AFK in your run and hold you hostage, now this is not necessarily what the guy's saying, but in my mind, that immediately includes messaging. All right. Like if the guy is going to document himself to Blizzard as a scumbag, he may not. Like I guess there's a scenario here where all of this could happen without any typing, but I really don't think it could. It's probably, if this situation played out, it'd be the other four people like, hey, you fuck, why are you AFK? Come on, we're trying to blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? I think that would be way better. I don't know why people look at this as a bad thing. Let's put it this way. The dungeon deserter debuff, is that really a problem? Like, it's really not. Like, if they put in a minor in-game penalty, yeah, fuck it. I'll just leave. You know what I mean? I'd rather sit there than let this guy ruin my day. I'd rather take that penalty than let this guy ruin my day, first of all. But second of all, what people aren't realizing is then that completely exposes the behavior. That player has demonstrated that they are like fully committed to being a scumbag, right? It's one thing to leave a group when there's absolutely no repercussions at all. But it's another thing to prevent the group from succeeding on purpose, right? Because that's what that guy would be doing. That would then be punishable. Like surely Blizzard could just make that actual that concept punishable, right? Like if they're gonna change anything, that fucking guy is screaming it from the top of his lungs, likely in party chat too. You know what I mean? He'd probably be arguing with them, potentially breaking the current codes of conduct. You know what I mean? So to me, if this happened, this would be like, oh, that's the best case scenario. Because a lot of times, especially when I used to try to make videos of exposing the players doing this, it would be murky. Like people would be like, oh, no, he was in the right to do that. You know what I mean? But if he did that, if that exact situation happened, nobody could defend that, right? No possible way could you defend that. So it's like, oh, that's the fucking best case scenario. Then these guys out themselves as ultra scumbags. So good luck. You better go fucking make a new character or change your name or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's a win-win. Like you should want that. That's perfect. That makes those players be unacceptable and basically profess that they're going to do that. You know what I mean? Anyway, I think the only solution for this problem is to punish those who leave and add something like a buff to the group, depending who left, or a buff to the enemies. But they could also introduce the AI who replaces that role that left. And this is a great example of that second comment we read where somebody said there's no good solutions being talked about. What the fuck? This is a terrible suggestion. This is just somebody who's not thought. He's just not thought about this a lot. You know, this is just like, oh, people are leaving. Oh, here's my idea. You know, like this is not. What are you talking about? Like you have any? That's so ridiculous. So you're talking about buffing the group when somebody leaves. You know what that's going to do, dude? That's going to cause people to kick players from their own group so they can solo it. That's not. That's what I would do if I had a buff that if somebody left and I was the only one in the key and I got 5 times stronger. Fuck that. We're soloing keys from now on. You know what I mean? That's just a terrible, terrible suggestion. And the AI, that's an interesting suggestion, but like they don't have that. Like that's not. There's no. That's not in the game, right? So I don't think either of those are happening. But I kind of like the idea of them returning the overtime buff. I don't know why they got rid of that. Maybe because of some kind of exploitative behavior. But yeah, that would also be fine. Like if somebody leaves and the other 4 people want to stay and it's overtime, yeah, just let them spawn mad pridefuls like that. You know, like that. I don't know. I don't feel like that's an issue. Like if the key is already out of time, or just maybe, you know, you could make it so you could deplete the timer. I think that would be a feature that should probably be in the game. You could end the timer preemptively. I don't know why that's not a feature. Maybe because people would troll or something like that. But I think if you did that plus an overtimed, like, you know, but you just want to finish it for whatever reason, then you should have that option. But anyway, but yeah, it's just a lot of comments like this. Like, we know it's happening, we know it's an issue, but we aren't going to sort it anytime soon. And that's really stupid to even say that because the fact that they commented on it proves that they are going to think about it more and that they have a plan. So this is the best actual solution. If you fail a key level should not decrease. This solves the leaving problem. Yep, I totally agree. I mean, it really does. The people will still leave, but there won't be a bad, like, it won't matter. Like, then you'll just have lost like 20 minutes of your time. And that sucks maybe for a lot of, like, if it's going to keep happening. but at least the key's not going backwards. Like, and what people don't already, like, they don't think about, probably because they never did it, but back in the challenge mode days, you used to be able to start over and reset the key and practice. We would do this all the time. Whenever I did pug challenge modes, the first thing we'd always do is go run through the whole dungeon. Just do like a completion clear. Like, don't care about speed, just practice. Put markers down. We would see, like, okay, we're going to do this here. We're going to do this here. Practice it. Everybody practices it once, then they do it for real. And maybe 1 or 2 resets. And if after the second reset, the group is still failing, then people would start leaving. But this is the solution. Make it so once you have the key level, it can't go backwards. And I get why that would be really bad for the ultra high end, because a lot of the times, like the make or break in like a great push type group, it's going to be like one small mistake and now they have to go backwards. You know what I mean? And so that really keeps that cutting edge progressive. But I know it's like, I get it. It's making Blizzard money and those players are the most like important influencers in the game. But it's just such a, like, I hate to say it, but like really the players ruin this. So like on both sides of it, the scumbag leavers and the selfish players. And then you also have like the bleeding edge sweat lords who are just like fucking, yeah, I mean, it sucks because it's making the average player who just wants to play it for fun and try to be, as competitive as they can within themselves. It makes it so hard to do that. You know what I mean? Both sides of it. So I think yeah, and if keys didn't deplete, I would do my own key constantly. I would probably never do anything but my own key. So I don't know. Failing a key already decreases the reward. Timer breaks. You finish it anyway and try again. And this is a kind of like not even probably what he was trying to get at here, but the whole you finish it anyway and you try again thing is exactly what I mean. Like practice, learning, getting more reps. This is so crucial. This is what should be valuable about Mythic plus pugging. Somebody who has seen every possible failure and now has a good idea in their head on how to solve it, right? Like if you see a bizarre mistake in a pug, can you fix it? Can you solve it? Or is that the end of the key? If everybody finished every key they ever did, the answer would be a lot more yes and a lot more just quit. You know what I mean? You would just do it by accident. Like you wouldn't even want to quit at that point. You'd be like, oh, no, we're good. You know what I mean? Like you'd have that experience banked up. But yeah, then people picking apart that makes a dungeon score works like arena MMR or any other MMR in a game. You deplete a key, you lose score. You left a key, you lose even more. This is an option if they want to do a solo queue. I think they may do that, but I don't think they should. This is not solo content, okay? This is not 1 versus 1. It's PvE. This is meant to be team based. So just like you might have maybe boosting in arena, but first of all, arena is only 3v3 now, right? But yeah, it's far more likely for one player to get carried, but still passable. You know what I mean? Like it would cause a lot of fighting, is what I'm trying to say. If you lost score, if you failed, and it would cause a lot of us versus them. So I don't want to see that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did it. Because just like in arena, it's the same way. Like 3 players enter and they all could have different MMRs. You know what I mean? So it can happen. And I wouldn't love to see it, but it might be good for the game. Anyway, yeah, so is this the same person who said this before? No. So another person realizes it too. The game actually gives you all the tools necessary, except for one, being able to try the key again after failing. And that's why my solution, I think, is the best one for the game's health. Because it would encourage you to run keys you don't even really need for score to potentially practice and prepare your own key so you'd have a couple chances at it. You know what I mean? Also, you can report the player to the behavior, which does not go unnoticed even within Blizzard's automated systems. And so that's another common misconception. Unless the guy says something hateful, like very aggressive behavior language wise, there's nothing about leaving. There's no such thing as griefing. That does not exist. Okay. People talk about that, reporting him for griefing. That's not a thing. You cannot be reported and have your account banned for griefing. It doesn't exist. It's only ever for disrupting the server architecture. Like if you have a bunch of people disrupting a zone to the point where the game and the servers are failing, like what they're actually supposed to be doing physically, then you get action for that. So the examples you might see of that are like streamers who invite like 100 people to a zone and just completely make the zone unusable. That is something that would be considered griefing. But you being like selfish in a pre-made group with no predetermined rules, that's not griefing. Now, somebody has offered a solution to this, and I think they might be right, because back in the day when so the way this has always worked, like way back, like back in Wrath, like early 2007 and shit, Blizzard GMs would say, like, unfortunately, you didn't specify this, so we cannot act when somebody does the opposite of this. Do you understand? So what Rusty used to do is he used to say, all gear is reserved. I will take every single item. But obviously, he's not going to take every single item. He would just say that so every group member of his pug would know that they cannot take any loot without him giving it to them. And so then if anybody ninjas something or whatever, there's an argument about loot, he had established that as a rule set of being in the group, and Blizzard would then act accordingly. So this is like legitimately, like this is how it used to work. So somebody suggested this recently. If you start the group and say, hey, I'm just letting you guys know that I will not allow any of you guys to leave early. If you do leave early, I will report you. And we all 5 of us agree to do this dungeon to the completion no matter what. Do all of you agree? And then if all 5 players say yes, and then one of them leaves early, he breaks that social contract. And in the past, Blizzard has actioned players for doing that. I highly doubt they do it anymore, but I think it might still work. So give it a try if you're out there doing it. Let me know. Anyway, yeah, do the fix players are asking for some time now. Let the group try again and the same key after it fails. Let them report and kick those bad actors, leaving them with a bad behavior debuff. And so that's not going to work. But anyway, I agree that you should allow keys to, in some way, it doesn't necessarily need to be like never deplete, but make it so we can protect our key. It will make pugging a lot healthier. Because it would be so ideal for somebody like me, right? Like where I just pug somebody else's key for the whole week, and then the last day of the week, I just do my key over and over again. And I have like 5 allocations of protection for it. So even if it fails, I have the ability to not have it fail. You know what I mean? Anyway, I very often get the impression with Blizzard that they are so far removed from all realities that they don't really notice anything anymore. If I have nothing to say, I'd better say nothing. And if they are not able to find a solution for such an issue, what kind of standard awaits us on Friday? I think I do not want to know. So it's like, this is the kind of player that makes this game's community difficult to navigate, right? Because this guy's so stuck in his, like, he thinks that he knows every single thing about the way this video game company works. I don't know how fucking stupid you have to be to say this out loud. It's really weird. Like, I get it that you probably played the game for a while and you think you've seen it all, but I promise you, unless you've actually worked at the company, you probably don't know exactly what they're doing. And especially because of how they're so unlikely to communicate small things anymore, it's really such a, like, just a brain dead thing to say. I very often get the impression with Blizzard that they are so far removed from all realities that they really don't notice anything anymore. So what do you think they're doing? Like, what I mean, like, I don't know how you could say that out loud and think you're correct. What do you think they do? I really don't. What do you think they even like show up anymore? Like they have 90% of their employees not being at work or something like that. I don't know how. Like, they have whole teams dedicated to the community. Like, that's called the community managers. It's I don't understand why you would even say that out loud. And they do it. And this is the weirdest part. If I have nothing to say, I'd better say nothing. No, they have something to say, dude. They fucking said it. Like, they literally, this is your forewarning to not be surprised with a smile. Like, that's pointed language from Blizzard, I feel like. Anyway, then a lot of people arguing. I cannot believe how many comments there are. I don't want this to be super long, but like, yeah, I don't know. We've seen a lot of the same. There's not really any new, I don't think, but let's see. I didn't read all these. If you want a serious solution, there is an easy one. Maybe start playing higher keys with more brain. More brain. That's well said. Do not go into a 20 with a 2 mentality like 70% of the players. Moving, interrupting, dispelling should be baseline in your mind. When you start a higher key, the only thing That was a terrible comma use. Anyway, but the only thing is, there are many responses like, it's just a game. Relax, bro. Stop crying or insulting. To hold a player hostage in a higher key because you want to get boosted from him is also a big problem and threat. The levers aren't to 100% the evil ones. This is spoken from somebody who leaves a lot of fucking keys. You could always tell because they start making up these like fucking hyperbolic situation. Whoever said that, dude? Whoever said it's just a game in a 20? I've never heard anybody say. I've done a lot of keys, dude. I've never heard anybody be woefully bad and say like, "Oh, bro, just relax." Like, no, everybody who's doing a 20 takes it serious. This doesn't happen. And this is what I was saying to that guy in the stream last week. The people who leave and then try to defend their leaving as anything other than I'm selfish, like, hey, fuck it, dude. If you're selfish and you think your time is worth more than the other 4 people, just fucking lean into it, dude. It's 2023, man. Like, it's going to be 2024 soon. You know what I mean? There's eventually going to be fucking legislation to protect against this bullshit. That's the way the world's fucking going now. So just fucking lean into it, man. Just say, I'm fucking selfish. I don't give a fuck about you. You don't matter to me. You're only a chip in my game that I'm playing of chess. And if you don't move where I say you to move, then you're shit. Then I don't want to play with you. Just fucking say that. But when you have people who try to act like, oh, you're not playing up to my expectations, bro, who are you? You're doing the same key as them, right? Like, unless you're doing a key way underscored that you don't even need score from, you're the same progression level as they are. So you think like somehow that you put in like 10 times more work than them? I mean, if they're playing an Ogvoker, maybe. I doubt it though. Even in that case, right? Like, if you're alongside somebody who you're supposed to be battling together with and you think that they are not at the same level as you, you're just making up excuses. That's just bullshit. And that's what I try to say to the guy who was saying this stuff. I was like, listen, this is in your own head. You can't, this is not going to get solved. You're going to find faults with everybody but yourself. And this is really bad for your progression because it's going to get to the point where you can't do a key without thinking everybody else sucks. Like, if you keep swimming and drinking this shit, it's going to be like everywhere. You're going to see somebody who does, oh, he didn't interrupt that cast and his interrupt was up. He's garbage. It's like that, dude, there's a lot of factors in the game. Like, that's just not a very healthy mindset to have in a pug progression atmosphere. You have to know that mistakes will happen and that there are ways to solve them. And sure, if you're playing some fucking joke mode DPS that only has DPS and you don't have any utility, then yeah, maybe you are completely helpless and it's easier to find yourself in this trap where you're saying like, these guys aren't interrupting or moving their character or dispelling properly. Like, dude, I don't like, and first of all, a 20 is a terrible example to use. I'm just going off what this guy says. If you're talking about a 20 at this point in the season and you're expecting players to be gods, you're just the bad player. Like, that's just on you at that point. 20s are fucking easy. I did a 20 the first week of the season, dude. We're like 25 weeks into the season now. So, but yeah, if you're doing like 25s and shit now, that seems like a very good progression target. That's like a hard number, even, even after the nerfs. 25 is like a good number. If you're doing 25s, you're not really seeing players like that. Like, now, we see a lot of research druids like that, sadly, who don't do anything other than spam heal. But that's a different problem altogether. But like your average DPS or even tank, they put in the work, man. Like, they can do the key. Maybe they're not playing at their best right now. Maybe they make a mistake that causes the key to fail. But that does not mean that they're putting in a 2 mentality in a 20. That's just you thinking that you're morally superior, mechanically superior to these people, and it's false. So if you keep lying to yourself like this, you'll never progress. And so that's what I said to the guy. I was like, listen, if you're going to keep acting like this, you should stop pugging. Like, straight up, it's good for me that you stop pugging, but it's also good for you that you stop pugging because you don't realize that your mentality is the reason you're failing. Like, the other players are never going to live up to this expectation you have. It's just you're gonna eventually be the best player in the group. Like, that's a good thing. That should be an ego boost. That should make you feel good about yourself. Look at how good I am. Look how much I can carry these guys. It should be a good. That's why I love tanking. Like, look at how much when I solo save a boss, and especially if it's in time. Like, I solo save the key, bro. I just fucking carry these guys. That feels awesome. It's like a pat on the back. That's a good thing. But instead, imagine if I was like, oh, these guys died on this boss. Fuck them. I'm leaving. Do you know how many less keys I would finish? That's so detrimental to your progress. And then less keys I would learn from, less keys I would succeed in, would learn, like, build that muscle memory to get better at in the future. I'd just be making my own progression lower. Like, that's just a bad idea. So I challenged the guy, go find 4 other people out there. There's plenty of fucking people like this Farnio guy. You four go, you and 4 others go do Mythic Plus together and see. It'll be very, very obvious, because when all 5 of you think it can't be me that's making the mistake, I can't get any better. Well, guess what? What happens when a mistake happens? It just explodes, or more implodes, right? Like, if all 5 of you think you're the best player in the game and you don't upgrade a key, somebody has to take the blame. And you'll eventually realize why you were wasting all your time. But it's crazy to me to hold a player hostage in a higher key because you want to get boosted from him. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? Does this happen? This doesn't happen. Like, maybe like 1 in a million. I have never, ever, ever, ever done a key that is at a progression level where somebody was so bad that I would say they are holding the key hostage and they just want to get boosted. That's just stupid. Like, that would never, you'd never be able to succeed like that, dude. I get it. Ogvoker is bordering on that at times. That's a little bit of a different conversation. But like, imagine like a mage. The guy's doing like 30K overall. That's what you're saying, right? Like, that's basically what you're saying here. Or are you? Or are you saying the guy's doing 20K less overall than me, so he's shit? Yeah, I don't think it works that way. You know what I mean? That's the problem that you have, this like weird elitism. They've drank it so much. They've like fucking bathed in it. Their skin is now different because of how much it's interface. Like, they're not the same person they were when they started this journey. They changed their whole outlook on things, that it's us versus them, and everybody who's not as good as me is garbage. There's no granularity to it. It's just it's noob or pro. That's it. Just like a teen, you know what I mean? Anyway, that's enough. We've said everything we're going to say. Let me know what you guys think. If anybody watched this whole fucking thing, you're badass. I love making videos like this, but I don't think a lot of people want to watch a 47-minute rant. So if you do, let me know. I'm always glad to see comments like that. But yeah, please leave comments and give your thoughts on what Blizzard might do. Give your thoughts on what might change and maybe your ideal way that it could change. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.